Tom Tancredo, like so many of our other previous guests, needs no introduction. His name is synonymous with border security and immigration reform. During his 10 years in Congress, he highlighted his concerns about these issues with his founding of the House Immigration Reform Caucus that counted over 100 members when he left Congress in 2008. His signature issues during his run for president in 2007 were illegal immigration and terrorism. After his unsuccessful run for the Republican presidential nomination in 2007, he decided to spend time on immigration reform and terrorism. This latter interest led to his interest in Islam and the threat that it poses to our nation and its way of life. Tonight he's going to speak about the transformation of America. Please join me in welcoming Tom Tancredo.
I must tell you though, if I get a standing ovation before I've ever said anything, it's very intimidating. Because it can only go downhill after that, you know. But thank you, Howard. Thank you, Jerry. When I first went to Congress, I had this burning issue. I believed then, I believe now, is one of the most challenging, most intellectually stimulating, certainly, and one of the most important public policy debates we could enter into, and that was about immigration. I'm saying immigration, both legal and illegal. Okay? You have to understand that there is a problem facing America when it comes to immigration. And I recognize fully well that usually people who get up on a stage and stand in front of an audience and talk about immigration, especially the conservatives, start out by saying, immigration, legal immigration, I'm for it, it's great, it's wonderful. It's just illegal immigration. And everyone goes, yes, absolutely. Well, let me tell you, no, I'm not one of those guys. Because here's the thing, folks. Immigration, whether it's legal or illegal, without assimilation is deadly for America. It spells disaster for us. We fight the issue of illegal immigration on the basis of the costs. I know, and they're enormous. We all know them in our schools, in our hospitals, in the prison systems, the social services we have to provide. It's incredible the amount of money we spend as taxpayers to support an infrastructure for illegal immigrants. They don't pay their way. I don't care what anybody tells you about, well, they pay taxes. No, they really don't. You know, some taxes are paid by when they buy something at the store, and they have to pay a sales tax on it. But other than that, there's really nothing coming from that particular group because there are low-skill, low-wage workers who don't pay income tax, but in fact use the income tax system to get money back. They are now able, they have used the ITIN numbers to file their income taxes. They will claim 8 or 9 dependents. They're all in Mexico, let's say, or South or Central America. Nobody knows if it's true or not, doesn't matter. All you do is put down names 8 or 9 times, you get back, of course, money. If you paid anything in income tax, you get it back. But not only that, you get a check for earned income tax credit. So it's $3,000 or $4,000 a piece. It's an enormous cost to taxpayers, right? But that's only one part of the problem. For years, I would go on, the only thing I had the only way I could address this issue as a freshman member of Congress especially, I mean, believe me, very few of my colleagues would aid me in my effort to deal with this issue. And I used to go on C-SPAN at night, and Janie there reminded me when I came in, she said, you know, I watched you. Now, Janie, there weren't too many. God bless you for doing it. She said, I watched you. And I cannot tell you how much that meant to me, not just tonight, but in those days. I had no who was I? Who was Tom Tancredo to, you know, I had no power. I was never going to get any committee assignments because, you know, I'm not really one of those go along, get along type of guys. It just works out that way. And if you're not going to get a committee assignment. You're not going to become a chairman of a committee. You're not going to go up that ladder. That's the way it is. I understood it. I understood the rules. I was willing to play by it. And I knew what it would cost me. But what could I do? So I would go every night. I would go on the floor of the House, and you ask for this thing called special orders, and you sign up, and if there's time between the time the House adjourns and midnight, they give you an hour that you can use, and I would go in and I would talk about the issue. That's all I really could do, and sometimes I was so exhausted, been there all day, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and you know, and no one, you know, usually when guys go on the floor, then some of their colleagues will come down, they arrange them beforehand. You come down, I'm going to do a special order tonight, will you come down, give me a hand? Oh, sure, you know, I'll be happy to get on, even if it's C-SPAN, I don't care, a little TV camera's good for me. And so, they would come. I had no one would come down, and you know, like my wife always says, you know, you whine too much, you ask for all this crap. and she's right, I understand that, but I just didn't know what else to do, and I would go on and get done, and I'd walk back to my office, and you know, it was midnight, I'm exhausted, and I'm thinking, is it worth it? Is anybody paying any attention? Because, you know, you gesticulate and you get very, but you're only talking, it's empty. There's nobody there on the floor in the House. You have to understand that. It's just these poor people up in the, you know, on this dais that got stuck. The guy that drew the short straw who has to sit up there and wait till midnight to close it up. And so I get done and I walk back and I think, oh man, I don't know. I'm gonna if I can keep doing this. I'm so tired. But I get back to my office. And you know, I get my stuff to leave. It's midnight, and all the lines on the phone I can see are blinking, you know, and I can hear the fax machine go da 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 da. Next morning, I have all these emails. They would print them out for me, being inept as I am. My niece calls me a technotard. She's right. And so they print this stuff out, and I'm thinking, you know, Janie's out there. There are people out there, and it would give me strength to go back into it again and again. And what I would say then, and what I am telling you now, is the issue is bigger than just the economic aspect of immigration. Bill Clinton had this sign around his room, his campaign office in Washington, D.C. It was a big place like this, probably twice as big, but a lot of desks, people answering phones, you know, and around the entire room there was a banner hung, and it just repeated the same thing over and over and over. You know what? It's the economy, stupid. That's what it said. And the purpose was to get every single person on that floor answering the phone, any question that came up, he was to say, or she was to say, well, of course, you know, well, I understand that Bill Clinton supports abortion. Well, you know, if the economy were better, people wouldn't be having abortions. So you had to turn every single question that came into something about the economy, talk down the economy, because it is certainly true. Americans do vote on the economy. However, I will tell you that you cannot count on that, and you shouldn't, because there's something more important. And I wish that around the Romney headquarters, wherever it may be, that there was a banner, and on it was printed, "It's the culture, stupid." Yeah. Because, my friends, even if, and I pray to God, we win this election and dislodge the present occupant, the dictator-in-chief. But even if we win it, and we do not recognize what is happening to us, this nation, in terms of our culture, it really, in the long run, won't matter. And that's horrible, because we're all geared up, you know what I mean? Everybody, I'm going to do anything. I did not support Romney during the primary, you know, but I'll tell you right now, I will go door to door on my knees if I had to in order to get him elected, because, of course, I think that the occupant is just what I described him as, the dictator-in-chief. I quake, as you all do, I'm sure, to think about another 4 years there. So no, I will do anything, and I will pray for, and I will work for Romney. But somebody has got to talk about this issue. Now, I don't know that he's the guy, because quite frankly, that's not his personality necessarily. I mean, you know, I knew Ronald Reagan. Romney's not Ronald Reagan. Oh, okay, he in terms of persona and a philosophical base from which he is coming, it's not the same. So we're going to have to work at this on a bunch of levels here in our states and in our communities, because I don't know where else or how else to attack it. And this thing has been building for years. It's nothing new, really. It's not about art or music or architecture or even language. It's about the life we have had and share in our society, which means it's about everything important to our happiness. That's the culture. And about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe longer now, I got this call in my office from a person who was a Los Angeles Times reporter. And he wanted to talk about the fact, it was kind of strange, because the story that he was doing was about the closing of the Roy Rogers Museum in Victorville, California. And so I didn't know, that was what it said on the little note. And I thought to myself, well, what am I supposed to say about that? You know, I'm willing to say anything about anything, you know, just give me an audience and I'll go home on it. But I'm not sure what to say about this. It's too bad, and you know. And it turns out it really wasn't about the closing he wanted to talk to me about. He said, I wanted to talk to you about something that happened when I was asking people in Victorville how they felt about the fact that the museum was closing. There just weren't enough people coming to it anymore in that area. And he said, I went into a bar. I was just looking around for somebody to ask, and there was a Hispanic lady at the bar and having a drink, and I went up and introduced myself. And I said, I have a question. He said, I'm just wondering how you guys here feel about the closing of the Roy Rogers Museum. And she looked at him and she said, there is a effing revolution going on here, and it don't include no Roy Rogers or Bob Hope. Now, and that's what he wanted to talk to me about. That was that statement, not the closing of the museum. And I wanted to talk to him too, because I said, she's right. She's absolutely right. Most of the rest of us don't understand it. She does. There is a revolution going on here. And to them, to the people who come here, both as immigrants or as natives, Native Americans, or people who lived here for a long, long time, in their revolution, in Barack Obama's revolution, it doesn't include no Roy Rogers or Bob Hope or the Constitution of the United States of America. Those things are extraneous to the new America, to the America that this president and his cronies want. It is the culture. It is the culture. And there are so many aspects of it. And why it seems so important to me is because, you see, we are in a battle, and you know, Sun Tzu was a Chinese philosopher. Everybody quotes him all the time because he's this brilliant strategist, military strategist, and philosopher. And he is quoted as saying at one point, and it's famous line that a lot of people use. That he said, in order to win any battle, any conflict, in order to be successful in any conflict, you must know who your enemy is. What makes them tick? What are they all about? If you don't know why they're doing what they're doing, you are at a tremendous disadvantage because you won't understand what they're going to do, what they're capable of doing. He said, and you know, it's so true today that we really don't understand the nature of our opponents in this battle. We just think that, you know, they're liberals, they're Democrats, they're, you know, people who, the typical voter who voted for Obama because they thought they were going to share some of his stash. Remember that? We're going to pay my mortgage. Where are you going to get this money? I don't know. You know, Obama's stash. That woman was, you know, going to pay her mortgage. And I mean, you know, plenty of people did that. You saw all the people they asked on television at the time about why are you voting for Obama? Well, I don't know. He's a great guy. And Howard Stern, of all people, disgusting as he is, but he went out and he had this, somebody going around in Harlem, he was asking all these people, how come you're voting for Obama? Some of you may remember this. And then they kept saying, oh, he's a great guy. Why? What has he done? Well, I'm not sure. He's a good guy. Well, so what they did was, when they couldn't get anybody, not a single person, to give them one substantive reason why they were voting for Obama, they started offering their own, saying, well, are you voting for him because of X? But what they did was use every one of McCain's policies, right? So they said, are you going to vote for Obama because he's against abortion? Yeah. Good. Are you going to vote for him because he wants to keep our troops in Iraq for a long, long time? Yeah, that's good. You're going to vote for him because of who his vice presidential nominee is, Sarah Palin? Oh, yeah, she's great. We love her. And you listen to this, and they got mad at me because I said we needed a civics literacy test in order to have, before anybody could vote. Oh man, I did that at the Tea Party convention in Nashville I don't know, however many years ago that was, and I said, you know, that the reason we ended up with a socialist in the White House is because we have so many people who voted who can't spell the word vote or say it in English. And we need people if we expect, my God, folks, if we expect people who do come here from other cultures, languages, backgrounds, and everything to pass a test in order to become a citizen and vote, why would we not expect the same thing of somebody who was born here? You know, shouldn't they be just as fluent in civics and American? And believe me, the test that they give, it's not that tough. Don't anybody scare you. You know, it really isn't tough at all. But I know, and you know, that so many millions of people would flunk it. That's one reason why, you know, the Democrats would never go for it. The Civil Rights Acts and all that stuff. And I kept saying, and they said, you're a racist for saying this. I said, I'm a racist. Did I say that this test should be given to blacks or browns? You are the racist, I said. You make an assumption here. You are assuming that only black people or brown people would flunk the test. You're the racist, because I guarantee you civic illiteracy knows no racial boundary. Watch Jay Leno's jaywalking at any given time, right? Remember that lady? She's graduating from someplace and just got the mortarboard, you know? She's about 25, it's like a community college or something, I don't know, and they say, what's the Gettysburg Address? She goes, well, I don't know the exact address. I swear I saw it. She says, do you know the Gettysburg Address? She says, well, I don't know the exact address. It's 4512. So. Oh, Lord. And these people do vote, and we, you know, we have to live under the governments that they create, and the one in the White House is a perfect example. So So but that's, you know, that's a problem, absolutely. We have to do what we can to begin to change this culture. Now, one of the great driving and really scary sort of things we face is this cult of multiculturalism that permeates our society in so many ways, in every way imaginable, in our institutions of every kind. I mean, whether it's entertainment or education, the media, whatever it is the marrow and the bone of most of the institutions of this country, this radical multiculturalism that is based on one idea, that is that America sucks. And that you should not, no matter what, you should not do anything to attach yourself to this decaying, you know, rotten old body over here that was started by a lot of these old white guys who had an economic interest in separating from the king, and that part of that economic interest was slavery. You know, it's always been amazing to me when we talk about slavery, and we certainly, you know, I am, believe me, not for doing anything to, in any way, shape, or form, whitewash our history. We have warts, like any country. But we find it impossible in America today, because of this cult of multiculturalism, to teach our children or talk about America in any way that's positive. You must throw in, you must always. Somebody just sent me a thing about a brand new museum that opened up in Denver, Colorado Museum of History, History of Colorado Museum. There's nothing in there about anything good that has happened in Colorado since its inception. It's, you know, the Sand Creek Massacre, and it goes on and on through every imaginable kind of ugly event. That's all that's in the museum. There is no way you can go through that museum and think, I live in this place, and not be upset about this. You know, go, I don't want to live in a place like this, because it's a black picture that is painted, always and forever, and is what the cult of multiculturalism is all about. I went to a school. It so permeates our society. I went to a school, brand new school. Howard, how much? I can't remember. Would you tell me, time-wise? 8? Oh, no problem. 8, 9, you know, come on. Yeah, right. No. Howard will have a heart attack here, but let me do this though, because it's getting a little warm. So, I'm in Congress, and they asked me to come to speak at a school, brand new school in my district. Beautiful, beautiful school that is just all of the accoutrement of education you could possibly shove into this building, in a really kind of wealthy area of my district, one I did not live in, but you know, kids driving their BMWs to school, tan from skiing in Aspen that weekend, you know what I mean. Everything you could possibly want. The most pampered generation on the planet. Nobody could, no group of kids could ever ask for more than what these kids had from a monetary and material standpoint. And they came into a room, 200 and some people, kids, teachers lined up. It was because the brand new school didn't even have a senior class at the time. And the teachers lined up in the, you know, this is a beautiful public school. On the wall, lined up on the walls, kids sat in the auditorium seats, and they asked me to speak. I was their congressman, so I said, sure, you know, and I said, well, boy, this school is beautiful. This is a wonderful, yeah! They went nuts. It was a great school. They were happy. I said, how about that team? Boy, they're doing great. Yeah! Well, they hadn't won a game in 6 months, but it didn't matter. But you know, it was their team. Yeah, it was great. They love it. Oh, it was. I don't know what made me do this, but I said, what about this country? What about America? Isn't it great? Dead silence. Just like dead silence. We'd gone through this, yeah, you know what I mean? It was this, we were sort of in this rhythm, you know, yeah, and I thought naturally, sort of, we're gonna And my country, yeah, nothing. Just, and I said, hey, what about America? Do you like America? They're looking at each other. They start looking at the teachers, right? Oh, brother, hey, this guy's crazy. I don't know how to answer. I am convinced to this day that it wasn't that we had a bunch of kids who hated America necessarily. They were simply intellectually unable to affirm the proposition that America was a good place. Because in their minds they were going, well, it probably is, but what if he asks me why? You know, really, I taught for 9 years junior high civics. I'm telling you, I see that look. I've seen that look in their face. It's like, yeah, but don't ask me anything else. And the teachers are just as uncomfortable. By the way, none of them raised their hand, right? And I said, look, I'm really astounded here. I don't know what's going on, but I said, it's a simple question. Do you like this country? And, one little kid over here, just sheepishly, one over there. And maybe, after I prompted 3 times, I got 20 kids. 10% of that audience said yes, right? And I said, I don't have time to disabuse you of all of the junk you have been fed by these people, I said. I said, but I know that everything you read, everything you hear about America is negative, so it's hard for you. I understand that. I said, and I'm not even blaming you here for this statement. I said, and I don't have time to go through our history, starting with the Founding Fathers to explain to you what this is all about and why it's great. I said, but let me just try to put it in the most simplistic terms I can, something they would understand. I said, how many people in this room would leave their home, their family, their job, all of their surroundings for a completely alien and for another country that was not as good as the one you lived in? How many people would do that? Nobody, of course not. I said, do you realize that when you open the gates all over the world, people only run one way? And that's to the West. Nobody I ever have heard of in my life was escaping escaping the United States or the West in general for a better life in, say, Pakistan. But millions are trying to escape all over. You name the place they're trying. You open the gates, they come this way. That's how you know there's something better. Because they wouldn't come for the same thing or something worse. They come for a better life. They are making a decision. All over the world, people make this decision. And you sit here benefiting by this wonderful system we put together. People are straining at risking lives. It is certainly true to get here. So think about that, I said. Think about it. When you open the gates, they only run one way. It's got to be better. And there is absolutely nothing anybody should be ashamed of in that reality. It is better, my friends. Or at least it was. And this is the part that it's breaking my heart every day. We celebrated the 4th of July last week with my son, daughter-in-law, 3 grandchildren who live not too far from, and we do that every year. Couldn't do fireworks this year. We had lots of problems in Colorado. But I have to tell you that for the first time in my life, first 4th of July I ever remember, I felt this way. In what way is that? I felt as though I was celebrating America's history, not America's present or future. Did you have it? Oh, man. It made me, honestly, I sat there at the table and I know I was, like throwing a pall over everything, and I said, you guys, I just got to tell you how I'm feeling here, because I've never felt like this before. And I don't want to say that in front of my grandchildren, because I don't want them to think the best is not ahead. I want them to have all the opportunities I did, but I just don't know anymore. I don't know if when we look at what is going on and we look at what this guy has done to us, you see, I have to tell you that I don't care if he is thrown out by, loses every state in the nation. He won't lose the District of Columbia, that's for sure. But every other state, if he actually lost it, the reality is he should be impeached. And he should be impeached right now. I write an article for WorldNet Daily every week, and I wrote one. This is at least maybe a month and a half or 2 months ago, and I had which I listed a whole bunch of reasons why he should be impeached. I had to write another article a couple weeks later, and a third, because so much keeps rolling down the hill. And this is the great problem with him in this office, and with the Saul-Alinsky methods that he's using. You see, when you overwhelm the system, you overwhelm the society, you can't keep up with it. It's just over, everybody's going, did what? Oh my gosh, I forgot about that, So let me go through just some of these so quickly, because this is just a brief rundown, okay? Did the president have personal knowledge of the Fast and Furious project run by ATF, approved by top officials? Department of Justice selling at least 2,000 guns to Mexican drug cartels. Wouldn't you have loved to have been in and they're saying, the only reason we did that is because we were trying to follow the guns. You see, wouldn't you have loved to be in the room when this plan was brought up? Somebody says, I got a good idea. Let's sell automatic weapons to the cartel to see where they go. And then somebody else must have said, great idea. And you go, what planet have I just landed on? Hello, I can tell you where you don't have to sell them, I can tell you where they'll go. The cartels. And they'll kill people with it. And in this case, in America, Richard Nixon was threatened with impeachment, Bill Clinton was impeached, and the offenses were a lot less serious than this. Nobody died at Watergate. Did the president know about the cover-up in the Department of Justice? Because that's what always gets him. At the beginning it's, oh no, what? Oh, what? We did? Never mind. Start covering it. That's what'll get him. Did he know about that? Did the president direct his appointees at the National Labor Relations Board to bring a lawsuit against Boeing as a political payoff to organized labor? You remember that one? Yeah. Did the president act contrary to the advice and pleas of his own CIA director? Listen to 4 previous intelligence agency heads of both parties and numerous experts on covert operations when, on April 16, 2009, he made public 4 internal Justice Department memos on terrorist interrogation techniques, thereby deliberately emasculating our anti-terrorist intelligence operations, endangering the lives of many intelligence agents. Yeah, he did it. We forget that he did this. Did the president have knowledge of the plan by the Department of Homeland Security ordered by Janet Napolitano to distort and falsify the Border Patrol's Southwest Border illegal apprehension numbers? You know what they did? They say all these people are being deported. No, it's called voluntary return. We've been doing it for years and years and years. VR. People come across, you stop them, you say, you want to go through the system up here, or you want to go home? They go home. Take their fingerprints, they go home. They're counting them as deportations. We've been deporting, and so they're saying, oh, we've deported more people than anybody else. No, they have not. It's a lie. It's all a falsehood. By choosing not to secure the border against unlawful entry, as the president willfully disregarded his clear duty under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution to protect the states from foreign invasion. Did the president admit this in a candid exchange with Senator John Kyle, telling him the reason he was not stopping the cross-border human trafficking was to force Republicans in Congress to strike a deal for amnesty? Is the President showing contempt for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law by ordering administrative amnesty for millions of illegal aliens through the implementation of the John Morton Memo of June 2011? Has the President demonstrated contempt for the Constitution, violated the separation of powers by issuing numerous executive orders, agency rules, have no basis in statute, and often contradict congressional votes against such actions? Did the President authorize Labor Secretary Hilda Solis to violate federal law against aiding and abetting illegal aliens by signing agreements with foreign countries and pledging to protect and fund educational efforts to inform illegal aliens of workplace rights? Also, did these agreements she signed with foreign countries violate Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, clearly establishes the manner in which treaties are to be undertaken and ratified? Did the President violate his oath of office when he instructed the Department of Justice not to defend the Defense of Marriage Act in the federal courts? Does the Constitution permit the person designated in Article 2, Section 1 as holding executive power of government to decide unilaterally not to enforce a law he disagrees with? Did the President authorize the approval of the office offered to a congressman to withdraw from the 2010 Democratic primary race for U.S. Senator in Pennsylvania? Did the President violate the War Powers Act by conducting military operations in Libya beyond the 60-day limitation? Did the President send his the Secretary of Defense, Panetta, to the Congress and tell him, we are not going to ask your permission to go to war, we're only going to ask NATO and the UN? All these things are impeachable offenses, and the list keeps growing, and we simply ignore it. You say, oh, hey, listen, we can't, I tell my colleagues, those I still speak to in Congress, I say, look, you've got to do something about this. You can't let this go. And they say, it'll hurt the election. I say, it doesn't matter. If you list the things that Americans could see on a bill of impeachment, and it could go on, believe me, honestly, there's a lot more that you can put on here. All of you have something in your mind right now. You're going, he did that. I remember he did that. You see, we don't know. We forget, and it has to be out there in a form people can see it. That's why it's important to do it, for one reason. Number two, I know the Senate's never going to take it up. I know the Senate would never, have a trial. Doesn't matter. Because you see, if you don't impeach this guy, this dictator-in-chief, what do you do when the next one comes along and looks at this set of precedents that's been established? I mean, where do you go from here? If he says, well, I'm going to do this, and you go, well, you could be impeached. He goes, what do you mean? Look at impeach me? Give me a break. Yes, impeach the President of the United States. It should be done now. Somebody should bring a bill of impeachment, list all of these things and more, because believe me, he's done more things. I won't go back into that. It's just, I could go on forever on just that one thing, but